everybody. Welcome back to the Everyday Night. I'm Joe,
And I'm Jeff.
and Jeff. Um, Quite a lovely day today.
It was beautiful
Spring, spring, you
today and
know,
yesterday.
yeah, so good. So I think before we discuss what we're going to talk about, we should talk about what beverage are you drinking this evening to celebrate the onset of spring?
Well, we are in fact through the magic of podcasting a few days after the actual first day of spring.
Yes.
Um, but I'm not really celebrating spring. I'm not having a springy sort of a drink. I'm having a bourbon cream, which is actually it's gotten a little chilly as the sun's gone down. But this is like a Bailey's with bourbon instead of Irish whiskey.
Oh, okay.
It's an after dinner dessert type drink, but
That sounds good.
after the sun's gone down, it got a little chilly in the house, so I thought I would have a little warming beverage.
You
And you,
you appear
sir, what
ready
are,
to dressed and with a beverage ready to discuss great literature.
well, yes, I could have worn my smoking jacket and affected a pipe, but I decided not.
Oh, very good.
So what are you drinking to celebrate spring?
Well, I have a glass that just
Phantom glass.
amuses me. A glass of Vouvray.
Ah,
Vouvray, very light um, white wine and very
French.
tasty.
French I dare to venture.
I think you are correct, and I rather like it. And it's to me, I associate it with spring. I tend to, um, as far as wines go, I tend to prefer like red wines in colder weather and white wines and rosés in warmer weather, because they are chilled slightly. Um, so that's what I've got.
All right, mine's on ice
Well,
because I
uh,
usually can drink it, but your health,
to
sir.
you.
Mm. So our
Ah,
subject.
our
What's our,
subject, which is, I thought, appropriate, um, and in keeping with the idea of spring. You've heard the phrase, hope springs eternal. See what I
yes,
did there? Because
I
when
do.
springs,
I got
um,
it. That's
what I
way to
wanted
tie
to,
it together.
yes, thank you. What I thought we would talk about is hope. Um,
All
I
right.
I recently heard someone say that hope is a necessity. Hope is essential. Without hope, nothing happens. And
Hmm.
that struck me as I was unconvinced, and so I wanted to discuss it.
All
Um,
right. I
is hope essential?
well, I think that hope depends on how we define it, and
Yes,
you found a document here that endeavors to define hope and parse it in some ways into different types of hope.
yes,
But I think hope I don't know if hope is essential. Is often touted as one of the virtues, the same way faith is.
yes,
Uh, and I put them in kind of the same category of hope isn't hope necessary or not. I don't know if it's useful. Whether it's necessary or not is hard to say. There's the story of Pandora's box, right? You're
right.
familiar with that.
Oh, yeah.
There's this. She opens the box and all the evils of the world come out. I read a story one time that took that story and said that but after all of the evils of the world were released, she looked into the box and saw the worst evil of all, and it was hope.
Mm,
Because it's hope that that lets the highwayman lay in wait for hours beside the road in hopes of a victim coming along. It's someone who plans the demise of someone in hopes that it will make them feel better. It's
Or people who hope that life and their situation will improve.
right.
I think hope is a problem when it's substituted for planning and action.
Yes.
Remember, we've talked about the virtues as verbs, not just nouns, not just qualities, attributes, but action words.
Right. And hope is a verb, is in fact a verb as well as a noun.
Yes. But when I'll say it this way. When I've had students have to create a plan for what they're doing, and they write that they hope that these will be the results, I comment, don't hope, or at least don't say you're just hoping. Describe your plan. Hope is future oriented optimism. It's optimism about a future outcome. But simply hoping is like buying a lottery ticket instead of trying to build your savings and investing those. Um, Gambling requires hope, but it's not a plan for success. Um, yeah, sure, people get lucky, but hope is not a substitute for planning and action and perseverance.
Right.
It could be said that it takes hope to persevere, um, or that it takes faith to persevere, but it could be that it takes faith in the plan you've made to persevere.
Yes.
That so I think the question of whether hope is necessary, I thought was worth exploring.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I can see it as you were talking about it. Yeah, you see in a lot of stories where the hero does something, and they say, "Well, it's we've got to do this because otherwise everyone will lose hope."
yeah,
And if that means, I think the implication there is that if they lose hope, they'll stop fighting. If they give up hope, they give up any chance of finally overcoming their difficulty, whatever it is.
right.
But but as you say, I think hope, if you like, but you must plan. You can't win with just hope.
Yeah, my father said every year, don't make a resolution, make a plan.
Sure. And there's
And
the hope for the best, plan for the worst.
right,
Old adage too.
yes. So I think that to your point about people, we have to do this or people will lose hope. Um, Certainly the loss of morale that causes an army to, they talk about decimation in the original sense of the word, where,
Hmm.
but the destruction of a certain percentage of the army, you have to roll a morale check, to use D&D terms. Will your forces break and run? um, and how is that related? What does it take to persevere in the face of no reasonable hope for success? What does it take for the person to um, stand against overwhelming odds, knowing they'll lose, but with hope that it will give other people time to regroup, to reform, to get away, to succeed somehow?
when and when does when does hope become desperation?
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's this article you picked up that's split hope up into different types of hope.
Yes. So dispositional hope, when you're inclined to a hopeful way of thinking, regardless of the situation. Somebody who is, we might say, is always optimistic, just no matter the situation. If hope
Kind of
is future-oriented optimism, the person who is always optimistic, even in the face of, um, well, no matter what, whether it's
the Pollyanna
right,
sort of.
Pollyanna. Um, Situational hope is hope for a specific outcome from specific experiences, like hoping your latest project gets praised at the next performance review.
Okay, well that's fair enough. Everybody hopes at that level.
Yeah, except is that, are you hoping it gets praised because you didn't actually do the work? Are you hoping rather than working for it, rather than planning for it, rather than making a case for it, rather than proving it, rather than collecting
Well,
evidence?
but the thing is, once you submit it, then you're allowed to hope because there's nothing left for you to do, right?
Okay,
In this case, of
it's
a project,
again,
I've done everything I can. I hope it was enough. That's all you can
again,
really.
right. And again, it's as long as hope is not substituting for doing the work.
Right.
And maybe it's that I've graded too many papers where students simply hoped it was good enough. um, there's generalized hope, which is um, pervasive belief that things will turn out all right in the end.
All right. Positive attitude.
Positive attitude. Um, Let me ask you a sidebar question here. Do you ever find people with a relentlessly positive attitude to be annoying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
Yes.
Because it's kind of as you say, because it doesn't feel like they're getting in a situation where we need to get seriously down to work.
Yes.
Just being relentlessly positive and oh, it'll work out. Don't it'll be fine. So let's not put too much pressure on ourselves. This is going to be great. Get out of my way.
Yes.
There's work to do. You're not helping.
Right.
If you were working as hard as the rest of us here, you wouldn't have time to, be making iced tea for everyone. Just
Well, I think though, in a team, for example, there is a real essential role for the cheerleader, the positive person, the one who's encouraging everyone. I think that's important,
well, yeah,
as
but
long as it's not a substitute for the work.
right. Well, that's the thing. It's you can be encouraging people in their work. You can say, "We've got this. We can do this."
Right.
All if we do this and do that, we're bound. We're going to be fine. But the generalized here, as it's saying, is the no matter what, everything will be fine. That's annoying.
Hmm.
Yes, we
Um,
can do it. Yes, if we take these steps, yeah, we can do it. Let's do it. Yeah, yeah, let's who's with me? That person can be useful.
yes.
But the
Yes.
person who's just saying, "Hey, come on everybody, we should be having fun here. Come on. Why why is everybody so serious all of a sudden? Why? Because we're taking something seriously. Come on."
Yeah. I asked that question whether you find that annoying because um sometimes I do.
you sometimes you are
Do
just
no,
says, "Hey,
sometimes I find that to be maybe I'm a contrarian, but if somebody is gloomy all the time, I find that I want to be cheerful. And if somebody is optimistic and hopeful and cheerful all the time, it makes me grumpy. So
Well, then maybe we have found a single flaw in your character, Joe.
that I'm a contrarian, I don't
Yeah.
agree.
I mean, I hope that's not it.
Oh, do you hope that I have a different flaw in my character?
I hope that you don't have any flaws in your. I
Oh,
hope that we haven't
well,
discovered a
I don't
single
want to
flaw.
disappoint you, so you are correct.
Okay,
Your
phew.
hope is fulfilled.
Well, I
Um,
feel much better now. Thanks for
good.
keeping it positive.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
Can we get
Um,
back to work now?
hmm?
Can we get back to work now? What's
Yeah,
next?
yeah, okay, okay. But why? Why so serious? So comparative hope is another type where you hope that you will be as good as the other guy. You'll run as fast, you'll look as good, your work will be as good. That's I think it's a mistake, first of all, to compare yourself to other people.
Well, I think that
The quintessential Mozart wrote a symphony at age 3. What are you doing? Yeah, yeah, forget it. No.
yeah. Well,
Nobody
that's also.
liked Mozart anyway, so
I think that that is also the sort of the the landing before opening the door to envy is
yes. Yeah, yeah, I agree. So I think that's a problem. Realistic hope is grounded in logical evaluation of one's situation and the probabilities of success. That's not
that's yeah
that's
that's a
planning.
realistic prediction.
Yes, yes. Um, you've done all the things necessary to achieve the desired outcome, and then you hope it will happen.
Okay,
Well, yeah, that's once you've done all the work and submitted it, you can't do any more. You
right.
I
Just
think
like I
it's
said
I
earlier.
think it's the hope that other people are smart enough to recognize what you've done, don't have an agenda of their own that involves screwing you over, and aren't malicious and aren't idiots. And I think it's unrealistic to hope that a lot of other people aren't malicious and aren't idiots because there are so many of them.
True. Yeah, we've all experienced it a number of times. Just today, just yesterday, in fact, the day before that, and several times last week, I ran into a situation where people just were not smart enough to realize that I was right.
Yeah. See, there you go. So yeah, I think that if you have ever been in a situation where you've done all the work and you've done it well, but other people are in a position to evaluate it and they don't get it or don't want to recognize it for their
Right.
own reasons, hoping that they will is if it if you have to hope that they will because you aren't sure, then maybe you should be looking for a situation where you're more confident that you're working with people who are not foolish and selfish and driven by their own agendas.
Right.
Um, so
Well, one should try and surround oneself with people who bring out their best.
yes,
Usually that means someone who is at least your equal and often someone who challenges you intellectually and professionally and
mhm,
in whatever endeavor you're with, the people you want to hang out with, the people you want to associate with are those who will push you to be better.
yes,
So yeah, you want to avoid the people who are simply going to try and hold you down because it will make them look better in comparison.
yep. Um, Utopian hope, when you have hope that the state of the world will improve. Um, I think, again, I think that, for example, simply hoping that someone will figure out how to reverse climate change rather than funding, supporting government funding for research into, doing all those things necessary, simply hoping. Yeah, that's,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I guess hoping is a little better than denying that there's a problem at all.
yeah, well, yeah, yes.
At least that you can therefore, if you're hoping it will happen, maybe you won't stand in the way of it happening.
Well, that's true. That's true. I don't mean to take the position that all hope is pointless because it's not. It's that and again, I'm only saying when hope substitutes for work,
Right.
that
Yeah.
then I see it as a problem. Is it essential to have hope to even begin working towards a goal? If you think that there's no point, if you think it's going to be frustrated, if you think it's going to be opposed, if you think it won't go anywhere, is
Well,
there a, is it essential to have hope and to is it essential to have hope to persevere?
well, are we talking? Are we equating hope and optimism in that case? Because a certain amount of optimism is necessary to do anything.
Well, hope is a type of optimism, isn't it?
I know here's an etymological thing. I wonder if
Are
hope and
you were you
optimism.
looking around for a local etymologist?
Well, I was looking around deciding how much screen space I've got to spare to look it up.
Okay. Well, what's the saying that when people don't understand the difference between entomology and etymology, it bugs me beyond words.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
so what?
well, a synonym, optimism, the definition for optimism in the Oxford Dictionary is hopefulness
Hopefulness.
and confidence.
Well, see, I think confidence is different
Oh, it
because
is.
confidence doesn't, there are people who have unwarranted confidence because it's only based on optimism. It's not based on having done all the work to prepare yourself. As has often been said, luck is what happens when when you're prepared and
Oh, yeah.
that you've done what's necessary to prepare yourself so that when you're in a situation where there is an opportunity, you're positioned to take advantage of that opportunity.
Right. I've heard luck. Luck is the intersection of preparedness and circumstance.
Right. It's not simply hope or optimism. So I would say that what was
Well,
the
Wikipedia says optimism is an attitude reflecting a belief or hope that the outcome of some specific endeavor will be positive or favorable. So
yes.
they are linking it to hope. Merriam-Webster says a person who is inclined to be hopeful and expect good outcomes is an optimist. Um, so,
Well, I can tell you, I just recently gave a presentation and I spent a lot of time working on this presentation
mhm.
that I've heard somebody say that for every minute of presentation, you should expect to spend an hour. I don't think I spent, no, it's probably close to that. I spent a lot of time preparing it, revising it, testing it, rehearsing it,
Mhm.
um, making changes to it, revising it, and it succeeded. It went over well, more than I had hoped.
All
Um,
right.
So I think that um, if I wasn't simply going to wing it, uh,
Sure.
um, try to go from memory. It was because I had a very narrow, a specific time window in which to do this presentation. So I
Right.
timed it out. I
Right.
timed it out very specifically to make
Yeah.
sure it would work. And um, so it's that sort of thing. It's like I think that this is where it'll get a laugh. I think this is where it will. Here's how I'll phrase it. Here's how I'll pause. I think that will do it. It did.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, good. I could tell, it was really good. Um,
But however, after doing all that, before you were introduced to start this presentation, you had to, for a moment, hope that it goes as well as you expect it to,
yes, yes,
and that's fair.
yes. That's
Because
and
there's
that's
otherwise, if you knew how well it was going to go, you wouldn't have to hope.
right.
So that's really the difference. Hope is exists to allow you to take the last step
Yes.
and do the
And
thing.
I think that's the difference though. Is it allows you to take the first step or allows you to take the last step? If I had ever delivered this presentation before, well, it would have been a different audience. It would have been a different, this is why people in doing a play, for example, know that every performance is going to be different. The audience is going to be
Yeah,
different,
sure.
their energy, their knowledge, their interest, and when you're working with a group of people, every person is going to be different, every night. And so it's not always the same. And you hope it'll go well and you do everything you can. But yeah, is hope the first step that lets you start down that path? Or is it the final step that lets you proceed? It's like, I've done everything I can now. Here we go.
Well, we could also look at it from the view of the martial art that we both have done for
Yeah.
years. When you
Yeah.
start, you hope that your opponent is not going to be some monster that's just going to destroy you. You know, in a turn, you
Yeah.
hope that you hope that you've done enough. You hope that I've had enough practice and I'm ready for this. And I hope I get a good draw in the tournament and whatever. And as you get better and as you prepare more and as you gain skill, you don't hope for that anymore. You don't need to hope for it. You have planned. You have gained the skills necessary to do whatever is necessary in this situation. So you don't have to
Yes.
hope anymore.
Yes. Um,
You know either you're going to do well or you're not, and you know why and why not when it's over.
yeah.
So
Um, there are two other types of hope he described: transcendental hope, involving broad existential issues like the meaning of life, your sense of purpose. Um,
this
so
may be where faith comes in.
yeah, the hope for an afterlife, the hope for
Yeah,
or the hope and faith, I think, are being used interchangeably there.
yeah.
So, which goes back to one of your first points in this discussion. And finally, false hope, optimism that's not supported by reality.
Like faith.
I have seen both hope and faith motivate people to persevere.
Yes, yes. I'm not saying that those things have no value whatsoever.
Yes,
I just think that some people give them too much weight in the outcome of whatever they're doing.
mhm,
That, like you've been saying, planning and preparing and working and gaining skills necessary is what we should be doing, not not hoping and praying that the outcome is the one we want.
Yes.
So false hope is optimism that's not supported by reality.
Yeah.
Faith is
So
a belief that's not supported by evidence. So
it makes a further parallel
yeah,
between the two, as you were saying. I think the difference between like a gambler has hope,
sure.
not recognizing the fact that the house always wins. Um, but the difference between being a gambler and being like part of Mission Impossible, where they have a plan for a plan with a contingency with another plan, and at the
Right.
end, the whole thing is revealed, and they got it, they
Yeah.
succeeded. Um, I think they didn't weren't simply hoping, they were planning.
Well,
Um,
there's not often in that show though, or like in a lot of heist movies, there's a moment where somebody has to improvise. The
yes,
plan has broken down, and a brilliant improvisation saves the plan, or
yes,
at least gets it back on track.
right. But why are they able to improvise? And
Because they're
I just
highly
spent
skilled.
they're highly skilled. I spent a bunch of time recently with a bunch of very experienced improvisers, and they're the training and the practice and the experience. It's the fact that they're able to do it seems like magic to the audience when good improvisers are working, because they're making something out of nothing. And it just seems like magic to a lot of people. But I know from talking to these people, the hours and hours of practice and training, and that goes into goes into developing that skill where
Yeah.
somebody can make it up and see it and do it. And um, you and I have both had moments where we've seen a situation and said, I can see where this is going. I can see, for good, for ill, for I see the whole thing out in front of me. I know exactly where this is going. And there'll be twists and turns along the way, but I can see the result before even starting out on it. And
Yeah.
that's based on experience,
Right.
and learning from experience, from seeing all this, and preparation. If I can see the possibility, if I do these things and I keep it on track and I do the work, it will end up where I can see the potential of it.
Right.
So, and that's
Yeah.
not,
You have to be
that's,
constantly course correcting.
yes, not
And
just hoping it will work, but
right.
paying attention as it's going, not just planning, but paying attention as it's going and course correcting to keep it on the plan on track,
Right.
or revise the plan to keep the goal in mind.
Right.
So,
Or jettison the plan altogether as a bad job and starting over if necessary,
yes, exactly.
which is hard, which takes
Very hard. Yeah.
a certain amount of taming your ego
Yeah.
to say this, to give something up for a bad job and just say nope, yeah, that was a bad idea.
Well,
The
that
idea was
takes,
good, and
takes,
I didn't execute it correctly at the beginning. I've got to start over.
yeah, it takes humility and honesty,
Yep.
two virtues. So,
Keep coming back to those.
yeah,
So, do you want to talk about the dimensions of hope?
no.
Okay.
Well, the dimensions of hope, it really optimism. It requires emotions and intellect, behavior, um, and it hope works over time, and it's
Yeah,
context
we've kind
dependent.
of covered
So
these
we
already in our
have,
discussion.
yes, we have.
Yeah.
So I think um, I think we've discussed the idea, and so I think that the question we began with is hope essential? Is optimism essential? If they're
I
the
think
same
a
thing?
certain amount of optimism is essential for progress,
Yes. And
for any kind of progress.
I think because I think the opposite is detrimental. A certain amount of, it's the opposite of pessimism.
Pessimism,
Pessimism,
cynicism.
a certain amount of pessimism is annoying, just like a certain amount of excessive optimism. Um,
I
I
think
think certain,
optimism tempered by a tiny bit of cynicism is what
or
keeps you on track.
or at least reality.
Yeah, okay.
And I think pessimism without relief will cause people to do nothing.
Or
Why?
worse.
Yes. Why bother? What does it
Yeah.
matter? What di- it becomes nihilism.
Yes.
If what did you say? Hope can cross over into um, envy.
Well,
I think, yeah, the hope that
the hope that
you're as good as the
yes,
somebody else, right?
you can
Whereas,
have what they've got.
yes, pessimism can cross over into nihilism. The thought that nothing matters anyway. So I think that once again, as we have so often decided before, balance is essential. As you
Hmm.
say, tempering um, hope or optimism with a certain amount of reality or even cynicism is essential because without that balance, anything can go too far, and you
Yeah,
you you will not succeed.
I don't think you could. I don't think you could find or recognize goals without a certain amount of optimism.
Right?
Right?
Okay.
Setting a goal implies a certain amount of optimism that I can reach that goal. So, okay, now, as you point out, now what are the steps necessary to get there
Well,
and
and
make
particularly if it's a stretch goal, if it's something you
sure.
haven't achieved before, yeah. Yep.
Well, my my goal is to get home before I wet myself. I have to have a certain amount of optimism when when I'm driving that I'm going to make it.
Yeah. Interesting example.
Well,
Um,
you and I have driven a lot of miles between a lot of rest areas.
yes, we have. Yes, we have. Yes, we
but,
have.
but even that, but there are techniques you learn, right? And you practice certain skills,
And you plan
right?
to have an empty bottle in the back in case it's necessary, right?
See,
So,
all of these skills that you learn over
yeah.
the years by dint of experience.
Well, that took an unexpected turn. Um,
Yeah,
all right
okay.
then. Yep. Um, so I think that we have talked about hope, and I'm hopeful that we
Optimistic?
optimistic that people will like and share and suggest topics for discussion, and will join us again.
I hope so as well. I also hope in the meantime that you will be
A good night.
and true.